My brother exploited me for 2 years, paying $7,000, then sabotaged my career with harassment lies. But I found his stolen files, and now he lost his professional license forever and paid $320,000. I'm 27 years old, graduated with a computer science degree a couple of years ago, and what my older brother did to me basically destroyed any chance of having a normal relationship with my family. But honestly, I don't regret anything I did after. I guess I should start from the beginning, when Dominic offered me that job that sounded too good to be true, because turns out it was. Dominic is 41, so like 14 years older than me, and he was always the golden child of the family, the successful businessman everyone admired. When I finished college, he was starting his own finance and investment company with two partners, Garrett and Preston, and he told me they needed someone with my skills to handle all the tech side of the business. He sold me on the idea that it would be an incredible opportunity, that I was going to learn so much about the business world, and that obviously they'd pay me well because the business was going to take off. My parents were super excited. Like, my dad wouldn't stop saying it was a blessing to have a brother who thought of me, and my mom said it was perfect because we'd be working together as family. My two sisters also thought it was great, though they were more focused on their own lives. The thing is, I had just gotten out of college, didn't have much real work experience, and the idea of working with my brother on something that seemed professional and serious sounded good to me. Plus, Dominic had always been kind of distant with me because of the age difference, so I thought this would be a way to connect with him. You know what I mean? So I accepted without thinking too much about it. And that's when this whole mess started. The first few months were weird. I worked from home mainly, developing the entire client management system, the website, the databases, literally all the technological infrastructure of the company. Dominic and his partners, Garrett and Preston, had an office, but I almost never went because supposedly it was more efficient for me to work from my computer. Garrett was super arrogant and condescending, always talked to me like I was a kid who didn't understand anything about the real world. And Preston was quieter, but had that manipulative way of making you feel guilty about everything. Every time I mentioned something about my payment or about formalizing my position with an actual contract, Dominic told me to wait a bit longer, that the business was in startup phase and soon everything would stabilize. 6 months passed and I had received like $2,000 total. $2,000 for half a year of almost full-time work, working late many nights, solving technical problems at any hour because they didn't understand anything about technology. When I told Dominic I needed this to be more official, that I needed a real salary, he told me not to be so impatient, that I was learning valuable skills, and that was worth more than money. And I, like an idiot, believed him because he was my brother and I thought he would never do anything bad to me. During those 2 years, I worked harder than ever in my life. I built complex systems, automated processes, spent countless hours solving problems they didn't even know existed. And in total, during those 2 full years, I received $7,000. $7,000 for 2 years of specialized work. Every time I asked for more pay, Dominic had a different excuse, that the business wasn't generating enough yet, that I was part of the family and families support each other, that there would be time to formalize everything when they grew. My parents, when I tried to talk to them about this, always took Dominic's side. My dad told me to stop being selfish, that Dominic was giving me an opportunity many people don't have, and that I should be grateful. My mom just said nothing, stayed quiet, and changed the subject. So I decided that was enough. I applied to a master's program and got accepted, and when I told Dominic I was going to leave the job to continue my studies, he exploded. He literally screamed at me on the phone, saying I was ungrateful, that he had invested time in training me. Training me in what? I did all the technical work alone. That I was leaving him in a horrible position and to never count on him for anything again. Garrett and Preston didn't take it well either, but honestly, I didn't care because I was already fed up with how they treated me. I started my master's, and things seemed to be going well. I began applying to part-time jobs and internships to earn some money while studying, and that's when everything became truly sinister. I had like 5 or 6 interviews that went incredibly well. Like, the recruiters were super interested, told me I was exactly what they were looking for. And then suddenly everything would go cold and they'd stop responding. This happened over and over. and I didn't understand what was going on because my grades were good, my experience was solid, and the raid different. Interviews had gone well. Until a recruiter, a woman who was really honest with me, called and said, "Hey, I need to tell you something because this doesn't seem fair." She explained that after my interview, they had called Demonic as a reference. He had put his company on my resume as work experience, and he had told them I had harassed female employees in the office, that I had behavioral problems, and that basically I was a problematic person they shouldn't hire. She told me they normally wouldn't tell candidates this, but it seemed so strange and specific to her that she felt I should know. I sat there with the phone in my hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. I couldn't believe it. My own brother was actively sabotaging my career with horrible lies. I called him immediately. And you know what he did? He laughed. He literally laughed and told me that's what I got for leaving him hanging, that if I wasn't going to be loyal to family, then he didn't have to be loyal to me either. I yelled at him, told him what he was doing was illegal and horrible, and he just said good luck proving it, and hung up. I was devastated, not just because of what he was doing, but because when I went to my parents looking for support, my dad told me there must be some misunderstanding, that Dominic wouldn't do something like that, and that maybe I had done something without realizing it that offended someone. My mom again stayed quiet. My sisters believed me at first and were horrified, but when things got more serious, they started pulling away because they didn't want to get involved in family drama, and I get it, but it still hurt. My girlfriend was the only one who really supported me. She was furious, told me I couldn't let Dominic get away with this, that what he was doing was criminal. I went to talk to a counselor at my university and explained the whole situation, and she told me without hesitation that I needed to talk to a lawyer specializing in defamation, that what Dominic was doing was absolutely illegal, and that I had a solid case. I hired an attorney, which cost me money I didn't have, but at that point, I was so angry and hurt that I didn't care. We filed a defamation lawsuit against Dominic, Garrett, and Preston because it turns out all three had been saying the same lies to different companies. The lawyer got documentation from several companies confirming that these people had given false negative references about me, including harassment accusations that never happened. When Dominic found out about the lawsuit, he called my dad, and they made a whole scene. My dad called me screaming, saying how dare I sue my own brother, that I was destroying the family, that I was a disgrace. They uninvited me from Thanksgiving, from Christmas, basically told me that until I dropped the lawsuit, I wasn't welcome at family events. My sisters were caught in the middle, and it was obvious they were stressed about everything, so they decided to stay out, two of it. And I don't blame them. But I also can't say it didn't hurt to feel so alone. Things reached an unbearable point when my parents came looking for me at a family friend's house where I was staying, trying to convince me to drop the lawsuit. My girlfriend was with me, and when they started pressuring me again, she exploded. She told them everything I had been putting up with, yelled at them asking how they could defend someone who was destroying their own son's life, and basically kicked them out. It was horrible, but it was also like the first time someone actually defended me in front of my family. Then something happened that completely changed the case. While I was organizing my stuff to move apartments, I found some files on my laptop that I hadn't put there. They were client lists, detailed financial information, and when I reviewed them carefully, I realized they were from the previous companies where Dominic and his partners had worked before opening their own business. Apparently, Dominic had used my computer at some point. He had access because I trusted him, obviously, to save information he had stolen from his previous employers, probably to take clients to his new company. I showed this to my attorney, and he almost fell out of his chair. He told me this was evidence of serious federal crimes, theft of intellectual property, and violation of non-compete agreements. We immediately turned everything over to federal authorities, and they started a criminal investigation against Dominic, Garrett, and Preston. Within weeks, their company had to close because no one wanted to do business with them while they were under federal investigation. Dominic called me hysterical, saying I had destroyed his life, that I had ruined everything for him, and I told him exactly what he had told me. Good luck, and hung up. I had never felt so satisfied and so terrible at the same time. The lawsuit moved forward, and the process was exhausting. My parents were subpoenaed to testify, and it was obvious they were going to lie to protect Dominic. My mom, who had never said anything during all this, suddenly had a lot to say under oath, lying about things I supposedly had done, trying to make it seem like Dominic's accusations had some basis. My dad did the same. Watching my own parents lie under oath to protect the son who had been systematically destroying me was probably the most painful part of the whole process. But we had too much evidence. The emails, the documented calls, the recruiters' testimonies, everything. In the end, Dominic, Garrett, and Preston accepted a settlement. They paid me $320,000 total, which included compensation for the defamation, restitution for all the work I had done practically for free for 2 years. And they had to write formal retraction letters to all the companies where they had lied about me, admitting their accusations were false. But that wasn't all. The federal investigation continued, regardless of our civil settlement, and the criminal charges proceeded. Dominic, Garrett, and Preston permanently lost their professional licenses in the financial sector. They can't work in finance or investments ever again in their lives. Their careers ended completely. I cut off all contact with my family. My dad tried to call me once after everything was over. I think expecting that now that I had won everything I was going to forgive and forget, but I didn't answer. My mom sent me a text saying she hoped I was happy now that I had destroyed her son, and that was the last time I heard from her. My sisters sent me occasional messages trying to mediate, but I made it clear to them I had no intention of having any relationship with Dad, Mom, or Dominic ever again. I used the settlement money to finish my master's without having to work, and then invested it in starting my own tech consulting company. It's going well. I work with clients who respect me and pay me what I'm worth. My girlfriend is still with me. Actually, we got engaged a few months ago, and she's basically the only family I need now. Do I feel bad about what happened? Not really. Do I wish things had been different? Of course. But at the end of the day, I wasn't the one who started this. I just wanted to work honestly, be treated with a minimum of respect and dignity. And when that didn't happen, when my own brother decided to actively sabotage my future out of pure spite, I took the necessary steps to protect myself. And if that meant he lost everything, well, those were the consequences of his own actions. Last week, I ran into Garrett at a supermarket. He saw me and literally turned around and went down another aisle. That little interaction told me everything I needed to know. They know exactly what they did, they know it was wrong, and they have to live with those consequences every day. I, on the other hand, can finally sleep peacefully knowing I stood up for myself when no one else did.